It is really surprising when I look back and I see early sketches and the original ideas, how unlike they are to the final product. And for instance, in the beginning, the story was set in my home suburb of Hillary's. As the story progressed, I just started to get other visual ideas, such as the construction of a city that was really quite excessively urban. And I think that may have had something to do with the fact that while I was working on the book, I moved to an inner city suburb. So suddenly I was in an environment that was full of a lot more plumbing and street signs and traffic. I just thought it would be very interesting to start off by removing the trees completely from the landscape, and then I started to remove all organic things. So even the footpaths, there's no aesthetics in the footpaths that people walk on. There's just bits of plumbing coming out in the middle of it, which are big obstacles, but that's because people are in the service of the city rather than the other way around. Like, city is not to help you live better. The city is just to exist to function efficiently.
A lot of the process in finding the score was actually a discussion about story. For example, is the music of the place that the lost thing finds itself in, i.e., is it an alienating, cold sound, or, right, is the music actually serving the function of representing the relationship between the boy and the lost thing and the journey of the lost thing through the space? So that the latter is what we settled on, and that's why the score is somewhat more gentle than the landscape presented.
One of the biggest challenges of the film technically was animating the Collins Street scene, which had so many characters in the one scene, all of which required individual rigging and assembling. I felt very blessed to be working with Tom, who had modelled all these fantastic characters, and I really wanted to make sure that we featured all of these characters. Some of the characters do feature throughout other parts of the film, but we tried to pull as many as we could together to really fill out this crowd.
We sort of cheated that slightly in a way, in that I think we produced about 8 to 10 generic office worker characters, which were then animated as a small group and then assembled in scene and then duplicated many times to build up the crowd.
And we just changed their hair colour or the colour of their clothing.
I don't think in the final shot you really notice there are only 8 distinct individual characters there.
In one scene in particular, Shaun Tan references Brack's Collins Street, where we see all of the people walking down the street, and there was a tram that goes through. Growing up in Melbourne, Melbourne has a particular sound which has been coded by the trams that are constantly passing, but we were very careful not to make it too literal, but rather just refer to it. One of the biggest challenges for sound people is if the animators are going to take you to a visual place you've never been before, we would like to match that and take you to a sonic place that you've never been before. And it's thinking outside of the box in these ways and experimenting is how you can typically find these types of alien locations.